remove the caliper. This here's a T45. Might I recommend using a short extension? Before we remove the caliper, we want to compress the piston a little bit. So we just push, and then it should come right off. This should just slide off. It was catching on this shim, which I think I need new pads. Before I loosen the axle nut, I like to back off these nuts here, and what this does is tension the belt. Loosen the other side. Remove the cotter pin. This is a 15/16. Now I'm going to beat the axle with a dead blow hammer. And it hits the exhaust pipe. I need to remove that slip-on. There's a shim in here. I don't want to get wedged. There's that shim. Notice this line is towards the outside. Push this forward and pop this belt off, and then it drops right out. Okay, so this here came out when we originally loosened the tire, and then this one, it comes out as well. We have two of these on the right side. To make sure the back tire is straight, we need to make a specialty tool. The manual says to use a welding rod. Instead, I bought this bar stock, and I ground the end to a point, then I put it in a vise and I bent it for this job. Then I just took a standard O-ring that was a tight fit, and this is what we're using to measure. On the bike, there's a hole right here, and that's where we put the point. And then we measure where the axle is with this O-ring. I got the tire installed at the dealership, and while it was there, I had the wheel bearings replaced. As we raise the tire, we want to make sure we get the belt around it. Now we put the axle in. As you notice, I have the spacers in the order they need to be. I need to lower the tire so I can get these spacers in. Put the tapered end first. We want to get this other spacer on the other side before we go too far up. This spacer needs to be put in place before the tire goes up because these bolts will get in the way. We want to continue raising up the tire. Now we go to the other side. So here on the other side, the brake bracket needs to go. Go. And make sure this lines up. See if it goes through. And there we go. We want to put a little Loctite on these threads. The old washer was a little chewed up. Putting on a new one. The old cotter pin was also chewed up, so I'm going to put on a new one as well. interesting. The original one is a little longer than the one I just purchased. Snug this up. I'm not going to make it tight. I'm going to snug this as well. I'm not going to tighten it, just snug it. This is how we tighten the belt and make sure the axle is straight. The special tool that I made with the O-ring and the point, there's a hole right here. I'm not sure if you can see that hole. This hole, we put the point in there, and then we measure to the center of the axle, and we go to the other side and do the same thing, and it's just a check. We tighten it up. Now I'll go to the other side and see if it's even. 60 to 65 foot-pounds. Put the cotter pin in from top to bottom. These pads are wore out, so I'm replacing them. I bought these. Let's hope they work. So we notice how much thicker these are. We need to spread the pistons open. If we don't have a tool like this, there's another way to do this. Another way to compress the piston is to drop a socket in there and use a C-clamp. Now we put on the retainer clip. And we put in the pins. 15 to 20 foot-pounds. Extensions will change the torque. Make sure we pump the brakes.